Hello and welcome to our look ahead at what the papers will be bringing us tomorrow. With me are Angela Knight, who's the Chief Executive of Energy UK, and also John Rentoul, who's the Chief Political Commentator for The Independent on Sunday. Thank you both for joining us this evening. Now, let's have a look at some of the papers' front pages for tomorrow. And The Telegraph. Well, that leads with news that many men suffering from prostate cancer are given misleading assessments, causing them to underestimate the severity of their tumours. The Express has news of a poll on Europe which it says will amount to an historic mini-referendum. The Guardian says the Conservative Party and the CPS are at war over the Nigel Evans case. In the Eye, the MP says his life will not be the same following the trial. Now, the Times also says Mr. Evans' acquittal has put the spotlight on the CPS and how they choose to pursue high-profile cases. Air pollution is the focus, though, of the Metro. The paper says that tens of thousands of deaths come as a direct result of people breathing toxic air. The Sun says Peaches Geldof was found dead with her 11-month-old son by her side. And the Mail has claims of sexual harassment in the House of Commons. All right, well, let's begin. And a lot of the papers concentrating on the story about Nigel Evans, of course, the former Deputy Speaker, and the clearing in court today. Actually, we'll just have a look at some of the front pages with Nigel Evans on right out at the start, shall we? And it's certainly interesting to see what some of those have to say. The news that Nigel Evans was cleared of that rape dominates many front pages. Here's the Eye. That makes the Nigel Evans case its main story, as you can see there. Nothing will be the same again. The Guardian, though, that says the CPS and the Conservatives are now at war, is their quote, as Evans, the decision today comes out. The headline is that prosecutors are in the dock there. The MP saying the prosecutors in the dock of this sex case as the MP is cleared. So lots of papers leading with that as their main story. And John, as the Chief Political Commentator for The Independent on Sunday, it is a story that has really got some ramifications, has it not, as well?
Well, it's certainly what a lot of people are talking about in Westminster today. I mean, there are a lot of Tory MPs who are friends of Nigel Evans who are really quite angry that the case was ever brought in the first place, because there was never any evidence that we heard or that was reported that really suggested that there was anything other than some drunken, inappropriate advances that he made and admitted. And in most cases, the victims, alleged victims, said that they thought nothing untoward had happened and that nothing should happen to him as a result of it.
And Angela, one of the things that comes out of this, of course, is that although cleared, it's going to be a cloud that will continue to hang over him. And he, in his own words, the last year or so has been hell.
Yes, and I'm not surprised that it has been hell for him. It must have been awful, because there he is, all his private lives just being worked through and combed through in court, and he is cleared at the end. And, it's been personal, people have been watching it, and I'm not surprised that they have. The focus has been on there. And there's a particularly telling comment, I think, that's in The Guardian, where it says one of the alleged victims in the trial said, following the verdict, "I don't believe he," that's Nigel Evans, "should have been charged. I don't think it was a criminal act. It's the sort of thing that happens in every bar. It wasn't a big deal." So here's somebody who is apparently a victim saying, hang on, this shouldn't have taken place. And there's poor Nigel, and I do use that expression advisedly, who must be feeling dreadful now, even though he has been cleared. And it will take a very long time for this to work through, and it will just sit with him for even longer.
John, that quote, or that suggestion in the Times that senior Conservatives and the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, at war.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Well, certainly there are Conservative MPs who are very annoyed with it and say that the Crown Prosecution Service shouldn't have brought such what appears to be such a weak case. I mean, obviously we don't know the full legal arguments that went on. I mean, this case, as Angela said, it's a huge test of the British principle that you're innocent once you're cleared. But I mean, it's certainly going to hang over him for the rest of his life. And you've got to think that there is a case to be made that that the Crown Prosecution Prosecution Service must have misjudged this one.
Because yes, you're innocent until proven guilty, but when it is this sort of case and it's somebody who has, is in the public domain,
so you'd like to see
call
the
a celebrity
brought in on these sorts of cases?
I am always enormously hesitant to come to any sort of conclusions when something, has like this has happened. And I'm also a very strong supporter of the British justice system. I just think that ours is overwhelmingly a good system. But it seems to me that in some of these areas, and this is just one, in recent times, the very fact that the individual concerned has been a public figure has resulted in a high degree of concentration on absolutely every part of the case. In many instances, they seem to have recently been cleared, and yet everything has been out there as it would have been if they had been found guilty. Have we got the balance right? Well, there clearly is a very difficult line here, because you can't not prosecute cases simply because it's a person in the public domain. At the same time, has this done right? And certainly from an observer's perspective, it is difficult to look at this and feel anything other than concerned.
That's a balancing act the CPS must play all the time. OK, let's move on to another story. On to the Express. Referendum on EU at last.
absurd piece of Daily Express puffery.
Well, hang on, because the Prime Minister himself launched his campaign for the elections, didn't he? Go on there. What's this about? Of course he did.
But this is about two MPs and two. I hesitate to call them headbanging Eurosceptics, but they are headbanging Eurosceptics. Peter Bone and Philip Hollobone, and a Tory candidate in Louise Mensch's old seat, Corby. They're going to organise an informal referendum in their constituencies, and for the Express to headline that as if this is the referendum on Europe that David Cameron has promised is going at some. I say.
Angela, headbanging Eurosceptics?
I will leave that phraseology to John. I think that this is one of a great many European stories that we'll see. I mean, not just because we've got a European election in whatever it is, 6-8 weeks' time, and we'll see what happens there. Before you accuse anybody of anything, let's see who wins, who become our MEPs.
We know who's going to win this referendum.
But this does touch a spot which is something of concern within the UK. What is our position in Europe? When are people going to have their say? I don't know whether we'll have 20 people vote or 2,000 people vote. I don't know whether it roll along or not. It's not like its headline. It's certainly not like its headline.
On the front of the Express with a picture of Prince William and Kate. Their flyer German plane? I don't think so. So there we are, put side by side by sheer accident.
But doesn't she look splendid? Hasn't she got
yes, even if it is in the rain.
And we haven't got a picture of little George today. I thought they were lovely.
Now,
I know,
they were very nice.
About that. I thought they were lovely photographs.
Royalist.
Yes.
I'm going to move on because we can get stuck on that. It isn't even one of the stories we've selected.
Yeah.
On to the Independent.